Welcome to 3D Learning, Animal Rights Video 1. This 3D learning idea is a flipped learning project where students learn at home, watch the video, do a little bit of work, come back and discuss and move forward. In the end, having a debate as the end goal. Animal rights is a big topic, and today pedigree or aesthetics is the focus of this story. Many people love animals, and I love animals, but some are bred just for aesthetics. Just an owner wants a specific kind of character or a very specific shape or size. They're very expensive, and so that's very nice. But sometimes when we do that, it creates health problems for the animal. And the animals, they cannot speak their mind. They have no choice. And so somebody has to speak for the animals. Pedigree is great because pedigree is a long line of ancestors and the pure blood. Purity has some issues with health as well. But the issue is today, the end goal is to argue who has a right to the quality of life for the animal. Should we consider animals a little closer and think about their welfare, not just what we want as rich owners? This is video 1. There are 10 videos in the series, and everything will be step by step so that students can develop their ideas, make statements, develop their argument, and then defend their position. So this is step 1. The URL is here so that you can always go back and see the original story. All rights for the original story go to the author and the original publisher because they put their effort and money into it. And the following is a rewrite of an article from the above URL. There's no guarantee the article is maintained on the page. That means that the URL is there. That's where I got the story. But does the URL change? Does the story get moved? Is it taken down? Is it edited? That is not my responsibility. So there is no guarantee that it will work. It is just where I got it, and I rewrote it for that. So just a disclaimer. Discovery is, in this section, there are 3 Ds in this project. There's the discovery, discussion, and debate. And so discovery is about what you know and what information you need to know in order to make an argument or make a debate or have a discussion. Building a larger umbrella to cover the topic allows the door to critical thinking and the size of the umbrella to enlarge. So think of an umbrella like this. If it's closed, you can't see inside. There's possibility of seeing inside. But if it's closed, you can't cover anything. You can't see anything. So you have to open it, and as the umbrella opens, the canopy becomes full of ideas, and your little spines that keep the umbrella firm, those are categories or arguments that you can make. So think of that as an idea. Developing an argument requires a focus of information to base the initial statement on, yet broad enough to push the idea into current thought and culture. So sometimes the initial information, this umbrella that you have, you're going to start with a kind of a closed umbrella, and when you open it, then you can make a statement that covers all the ideas under the umbrella. But if it's old information, it's kind of not relevant. It's just old information. And so we have to bring this ideas, all these ideas on the umbrella, we have to bring them into today's talking, today's ideas. How does it fit today's culture? And so that's what developing an argument means. You take the story, it might be an old story, but old stories like this one, this has been a big argument for many, many years. And now people are starting to react to that. Discovery phase requires students to present what they know. So in the beginning, students are going to write down their ideas, and then they're going to come to class and talk about their ideas. With the guide, the teacher, moderator, team leader, this discovery is expanded to include a broader range of ideas. That's why here you have the umbrella, that's your initial idea, and as you expand it, you have all these spines to keep your umbrella together. If you have no spines, you have no umbrella. And so you have that broader range of ideas. When it's like this, those spines are very close together. When you go up, there's a lot more space here. So then you have a broader range of ideas. The initial discussion, the first discussion, the beginning, will be used later as building blocks. So what you start with, what you start talking about, will be used as building blocks. So don't think that what you start today you're going to forget and move forward. You are always using, from beginning to end, you're using all your ideas, putting them together as building blocks for exploration, exploring more ideas, finding more ideas and reference, because when you make the debate, you're going to need references. You're going to say, oh, I think, no, we're going to say, this person writes in this article. You said this. That's how we want to start talking. Building blocks come from ideas generated from discovery. So now you have these blocks of information. First we have random ideas, just loose. Then we're going to take them and we're going to put them into categories. We're going to put them into ideas that are blocks we can build a foundation of ideas on. Teams use blocks of information to tie the defense of the argument together. You have 5 people, that's just an example. If you have 5 people in your team, then you have 5 building blocks. And each one will have to be tied together to the other one. You can't have separate, just unorganized, disorganized random blocks. That's really nice if you do Lego. But in an argument, you want these blocks to be put together. And they're tied together with the information that you get from research and discussion. Students require attentiveness, meaning you have to pay attention. Take notes. Taking notes is number 1, because everything somebody says, it's a new idea, something you didn't think, and you need to write who said it and what they said, because then you can say, you said this. If you don't write it down, you're going to forget, or you're going to remember and then forget who said it. And then how can you argue? Because you don't have it down. You have no evidence. So it's very important that you take notes from everybody. Everybody in your team. Your team is speaking. Somebody's speaking. Take notes. Who said it? What ideas? How do they fit yours? Put it in, if you put it in 2, 1 from me, my ideas, and his ideas. Okay? Or her ideas. Okay? So they're constantly reviewed. Keep that notebook handy. And if you don't like writing in a notebook, maybe you like writing on your tablet or your phone or your computer. So when you get together as a team, or when you do things online, make sure that you, if you don't want to write right away, make sure that you record. That's very important. So you can go back and review and then challenge. This idea is about challenge. We don't want yes people. We want people who challenge, who disagree. I disagree. It's nice if everybody agrees. It's beautiful. But you don't get anywhere. You don't gain any knowledge. You don't get any wisdom by agreeing with everybody. You need to learn to disagree more often. And that's part of this idea. The team consists of several people. That's why it's a team, and you build blocks of information to tie everything together, not only for defense, but also for rebuttal. You need to respond. You disagree, and you need to have some evidence of why you disagree. What kind of support do you have for disagreeing? Just to be disagreeable means that you're not a nice person, but to disagree with some support, now that has some power. It is important, it is imperative to note that there is never too much information. There is never too much information. There is too little information, but never too much. TMI, which is too much information, is when it comes to this debate, when it comes to argument, there's not too much information. Sometimes there's a lot of information that is not relevant, that doesn't fit our argument. And so we can discard that, we can throw it away. But there's never too much information. The challenge is to keep this large amount of ideas, this large information, keep it organized. How do you keep it organized? Because if you are in an argument, you don't have time to look for more information. You need to find that information quickly because you have a time limit. It's very important. Discovery, the first one, is where the mass of ideas, mass is lots, is flushed out, brings out, when you flush something out, it's not flush something down the toilet. Flushing out means to bring it to the front, bring it forward so you can see it. The opposite of flushed out is hidden. So you want to find that hidden argument. And in the story you will find a lot of arguments, and they are not hidden, they're already out. But to expand those arguments, you need to go find more information. And sometimes that information is not so direct. But that's where the foundation is made to support the statement. In this booklet, you will find the initial story provides a base point. It doesn't give you all the arguments, but it gives you some, and it gives you some ideas to research and go into and find things for your argument. In other arguments, the statement may come first. In discovery, you might ask questions. This would assume an initial level of critical thinking, which means when you read the story, read for what kind of arguments are there in the story. That's critical thinking. What kind of arguments, for or against? And you can write them down. Okay, when you're reading. Don't stop for vocabulary. Vocabulary is not as important at this point. Just what kind of ideas are generated from the title and the story. Therefore, the story is the whetstone. It's the sharpening. Whetstone is when you have a dull knife and you need to sharpen it so it cuts much nicer. And so, to sharpen the development, so you don't waste time on other things, you want to sharpen your skill in development and in your argument. Sharpen it as a whetstone. Skills developed and used in the discovery phase are note-taking. As I said, that's number one. Question asking. If you do note-taking, and you can ask better questions, because now you have something to ask questions about. Not just random, easy little questions, but ask questions specific to your argument. Critical thinking. Thinking critically means that you disagree a lot of times. You're not agreeing. You're disagreeing. You're challenging. Reading the story, reading other materials, and speaking every day in class, every day with your classmates in your team, getting ready for that debate. You should, at the back of the book is a date for your debate, and if you are in a team, you should fill that out with your teacher in this class. Next, look over the book and begin writing ideas about the title. The title is the smallest piece of information, and when you see the title, you should write just what do you think about the title? What does it tell you? What kind of arguments can you make with it? That's what you want to think. That's what you want to do now. At the end of this video, that's what you want to do. Stay ahead of class time, which means just look ahead in your book a little bit to maximize your discussion. If there's a very little discussion in the beginning of your class, then you have already looked ahead and you have some questions maybe that you have already. And so you can look ahead. You don't have to work ahead, but you should look ahead. Do some preliminary research. Look at the story. Look on the internet and find other links to stories related. It's very easy if you put in the title and Google search or what neighbor search or whatever you use, and it will come up with the same title, or if you go to a blog or the website, often it will give you related stories. So stories which are not exactly the same, but they will give other people's opinions for and against. And do some research a little bit so you can start thinking about the arguments that you might have. Keep notes about where you find information. If somebody in your team says something, you write it down and you put that person's name. If you look in an article on the internet and you just want to use that little phrase, always, where did you find it on the internet? Which PDF paper? Which blog? Keep that. Keep it on the computer somewhere or in a paper notebook. It's not so hard, but you need it so that you can go back and get it. Remember, all the information from beginning to end is important. Okay? You'll have to come back and visit it. So why don't you start doing it today? And when you go to class next, then you'll be ready to have the discussion. Thank you. We'll see you in video 2. Have a great preparation.